the club. Good evening, Mr. Banerjee, Brigadier Ganpati, Dr. Kunal Sarkar, for having me over for this very pertinent debate. 1984 remains one of my favorite novels. I've read it a couple of times, and I think it's time that everyone gives it a reread. Yes, I believe that George Orwell, when he wrote 1984, he was not far removed from reality. I think he was dealing with the twin menaces of Nazism and Stalinism. Yes, every political party, when it believes in dictatorship, if it believes in totalitarianism, it believes in exercising control on the citizenry of the country, that becomes problematic. There's a famous quote of 1984 that says, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength." So let me tell you, uh, right now, the previous two gentlemen all made very vital points on different sides of the fence. I have a different take, and I'll tell you why. If you see that in the past, since 2014, there have been deliberate attempts to throttle democracy. We've seen an unprecedented crackdown on journalists, on civil society. You must have heard of what is happening with Arundhati Roy. She's a celebrated author. But what Big Brother believes in, Big Brother believes that we're going to shut these people up because she's so powerful. She's in writing books. She's a critic of the government. Let's slap UAP on her. Let's shut her up. So who's the protagonist of 1984? It is Winston. I think Winston, there's a little bit of Winston in all of us who believes in love, who believes that safeguarding democracy, safeguarding constitution is our first and foremost right. And what does Big Brother do? What does the Oceania, the government, what does it do with this gentleman? He breaks him down, he fragments it, and he starts saying, what are the last words of the novel? That I love Big Brother. I've always loved Big Brother. So this is how brainwashing through different media streams happens to individuals, where controlling and fascism becomes the diktat of the government. Now, what are the arms that the regime has been using? It's been using media. If you see, the judiciary is getting subverted. If you look at the different judgments across the years, they're very pro-regime. If you look at the media, I've been a part of national media for the last 10, 11 years, and I've been very, very critical of Big Brother. Why I've been critical? Because if you do not speak up now, you do not leave a restful or a sane generation for the younger generation. So I felt it's a moral responsibility to speak up. You know, it takes immense courage to put yourself out there, be on national media. And people ask me, Saira, why do you go on these channels? Why do you go on ABC channel to get trash? I said, where is the choice? Every channel is being controlled by Big Brother. Every channel has narcissism streaks. So where do you go? Do you hide yourself in a corner? Do you allow yourself to become second citizenry in your own country? I'm an Indian Army officer's daughter. I will not allow any Big Brother, any bully, or anybody to tell me that because I'm a minority citizen, you do not have a place in the country. My forefathers are buried here. My father served 40 years in the Indian Army. Now the Big Brother tells me that today you are second citizen, or you're a secondary citizen because you have to prove your citizenry of the last 4 or 5 generations. We've had draconian laws being passed under unprecedented circumstances. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, just when we were grappling with a complete breakdown of the health structure, the government decides to harass the citizenry even further and says that now we're going to have the NRC, the CAA implemented. So we were dealing with the twin troubles of the COVID-19 pandemic and the NRC that was being thrust upon our throats. So let us see how, when you talk about surveillance, how Big Brother is using surveillance to control the minds of the people. Like, what does 1984 talk about? It talks about the thought police. Who's the thought police today? It is the IT cell, which churns out WhatsApp forwards day by day, and all with falsified information. They will show a man, a Muslim gentleman, probably spitting on something and say, see, this is what all minorities do. Today, they're trying to even demonize intellectuals, students, or anybody who's standing up to the constitution. We have seen arrests of Omar Khalid. We have seen how Arundhati Roy is being demonized today because she's spoken up. What Big Brother's done is blocked websites and apps. The government, under Section 69A of the Information Technology Act, has blocked access to numerous websites and apps. Critics argue that such actions can be used to suppress platforms that facilitate free speech and expression. Internet shutdowns. Who can forget? When the very arbitrary 370 was being thrust upon us as an ordinance, J&K suffered a complete internet crackdown. I mean, come on. Are they subhuman that they cannot voice or express an opinion? That when a very important law is being passed in the country, not a single citizen, not a single resident of J&K could even put out a tweet, could even put up a Facebook update. Isn't that unlawful? Isn't that Orwellian? Thanks to George Orwell, we can use the term Orwellian times as an adjective. Arrest for social media posts. Technically, anybody who's vocal out there, who's critiquing the regime, is a tweet away from detention. Mr. Nigam just spoke about, how emergency powers were exercised during Indira Gandhi's regime. So I would say this is beyond undeclared emergency. When anybody out there makes a cartoon, lampoons a political leader, you are technically a tweet away from detention. Isn't that Orwellian times? Now again, intimidation and harassment of journalists. We have seen how the houses of news click journalists were raided. They were asked very undemocratic questions. Now, another thing that they're planning to do is regulation of digital news. So the government has introduced guidelines requiring digital news platforms to comply with a certain code of ethics, which of course suits them as deemed all right. They have certain bills which they're going to implement, like the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, the Indian Telecommunication Bill, the National Digital Health Bill, the Digital India Act, the E-Commerce and Consumer Protection Act. So there will be an increased government surveillance, like we saw what happened to the protagonist in 1984. He was a broken man. He didn't have a choice but to say, and I love Big Brother. So you're not giving any choice to the citizenry but to say, I love the big man. Now there is also a Mrs. Macbeth here in the state as well, who pretends to fight against the Big Brother, but she has a very different kind of, draconian habits. राहत इंदौरी साहब, सभी का खून है शामिल यहाँ की मिट्टी में, किसी का बाप का हिंदुस्तान थोड़ी है. I'd like to just iterate once again that hope we are not, in a trying situation where we have to choose between the greater evil and the lesser evil. Hope will always fight and safeguard the truth always. Satyamev Jayate, always. I think this election, especially in the state, was about rooting out the bigger evil and choosing the lesser evil. So I don't need to spell out who the lesser evil was. I think it's important to note that even the lesser evil can be draconian, can be authoritative, because there's this big theatrics going on that I'm fighting the bigger evil. So because I just contested the Kolkata South election, and I can say with first-hand experience that the lesser evil was trailing me. I had Big Brother watching me. I was campaigning in Kalighat. There were 5, 6 subsidiaries of Big Brother who were trailing me. I was not allowed to campaign in various areas, in very important constituencies. So my right as a citizen of India was denied by the lesser evil. So to conclude my thought, let's not choose between the greater evil or the lesser evil. Let's choose for fresh, young, educated candidates who can fight for you, who can amplify your voice in the House of Parliament or in the Assembly, or who can be the leadership that you want. Thank you so much.